Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a cheat sheet for every single game mode and every single map within the rank rotation. Hopefully this can get you guys from bronze to masters as quickly as possible and push you guys even higher if you get to masters as well. So this is only going to be for the classic modifier. If you guys want to take a look at all the best brawlers and whatever on the other modifiers, I already did a video on that a couple of days ago. So yeah, only classic modifier. Let's jump into it. So quickly, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, because about 60% of you guys aren't subscribed, so do it right now. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So first game mode is Bounty. I'll be putting a timestamp for every single map in the description so you guys can just skip to the cheat sheet. So Canal Grande, you can see right here on the screen. So in terms of how the meta is shifting with Canal Grande, literally it's the same old with like Angelo's really good in the middle, Jean's just good solid bounty brawler, Mo is just Mo, Kenji's just Kenji. You'll see this common theme, pretty much Mo is the best first pick in every single situation. Kenji's a great first pick pretty much everywhere as well because his gadget is just so broken. In terms of really good options, I think throwers are always going to be really good here. Again, Canal Grande is just all about getting this mid grass and always making sure you've got a bit of everything. So whether you've got tanks if they've got low DPS, whether you've just got a thrower to cover all bases, whether that be like Barley. I mean, then you've got some like in-between throwers now that it's starting to become a lot more meta, like Squeak, for example, like Penny I'm starting to see a lot more of. So those are probably the biggest shifts in the meta, but it's just the same Canal Grande. So next up we have Hideout here, your best picks on the screen right here. So in terms of this map, it definitely is very sniper heavy. I think good players can counter for snipers on this map though. In pro play, they do counter snipers pretty easily, but from my experience in ranked, pretty much everyone just goes snipers and it seems to work every single time. So the big shifts in the meta are going to be Kenji. I think Kenji is a great first pick on this map because you can just run down the left hand side and he's a great counter sniper, so of course go Kenji. Mo again, go down the left hand side if you get Mo. Jean's just good against everything. Late picks, I end up either banning a thrower or Mortis a lot of the time because Mortis is so good into snipers, and especially if a good Mortis player gets their hand on it, it's pretty much over. In terms of surprising picks, you might see the likes of Pearl being really good on a map like Hideout. You've also got the likes of RT. A lot of people underrate RT, but he's really good against, of course, assassins, and he's actually pretty decent against fellow snipers as well if you're good at, of course, hitting those shots. Other good surprise picks, 8-bit. 8-bit can be really good paired with a sniper, and once you get the blue star, 8-bit's really hard to push into, so a really decent strategy. Nani's good as a counter pick to snipers later on in the draft, and that's pretty much it. So next up we have Shooting Star here, your best picks on the screen right here. So Shooting Star pretty much hasn't really changed. I think the big underrated brawler is Angelo. I don't see people go Angelo near enough as much on Shooting Star, yet he's so insane in this meta. He's probably my most infuriating brawler in this meta, so make sure to play a lot of Angelo right now. Mandy's a little bit bugged right now, but once that's fixed pretty much soon, whenever they manage to get around to the bug fix, she's probably going to be the best brawler on Shooting Star, to be honest. Late picks, I don't even think late picks are that influential on Shooting Star, to be honest. I mean, the other thing you got to worry about in Shooting Star is if the enemy has a thrower and you don't have a thrower, so you got to make sure that you're at least covered in some bases, whether that's like one aggro-ish brawler that has a lot of HP maybe, so you've got like RT, maybe got Gray that can fit in the middle, or maybe just go a thrower yourself like Tick and Larry and Laurie, or you can just go, again, some kind of high HP brawler that can at least push through the middle. So Carl, you got Kenji as a last pick, Mortis as a last pick. You've got a lot with Shooting Star, but again, a lot of times it's just going to be whether you can just hit shots more than the opponents. Lastly, for Bounty, we have Snake Prairie here, your best picks on the screen right here. So I feel like the Snake Prairie play rate must have been tweaked or something because I just never get this in ranked. Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm fortunate enough, but here are your best picks on the screen. So you can see in terms of the best three brawlers, it's definitely going to be Bo, Tara and Rosa. The reason being is because of the vision. Bo with the star power, Tara with the vision gadget, and then you've got Rosa with the vision gadget as well. With the slow, you're able to see where they are, and then Mo just really insane. Pretty much every brawler you want to be making sure you've got the vision gear on, or you've got to have some type of vision in their kit. So Jean, vision gear really good with him. Buzz, he's got a vision gadget. Amber really good with the vision gear, same with Gale as well. Or of course you can just go Tank, who's just really good in bushy areas. So Bull, pretty underrated in this scenario. Buster pretty good, Frank can be good, Shelly's good to counter those tanks. There's a lot of chaos, but just making sure that you're grouped up. Grouping up is the key to victory in Snake Prairie. Now moving on to Dribble, starting off at center stage. So you can see the best picks on your screen right here. So in terms of their changes, really, I think the biggest changes are, I mean, Gale hasn't even been changed, to be honest. He's still absolutely insane in the Dribble draft. You've got the likes of Maisie starting to become a little bit better. Squeak, becoming a little bit better as well. I'm starting to see them not actually as a last pick and just better overall in the kind of 4-5 stage. Also, last picks, you've always got to be careful of Mortis in this meta still, even since the hypercharge nerf, he's so insane. Grom can be a really good sneaky late pick, especially if they don't have any sort of like aggro brawler with the vision gadget. It can be really strong, but same with Janet as well for that reason. In terms of really solid options, I really like Berry can be a good sneaky pick, especially if you get some good synergy with like a Buster or any type of tank like Frank can be really good. Sandy again, another brawler that's really good here. Nita, another underrated brawler here. There's a lot of options in center stage, but by my kind of maths, got to make sure they at least got one tank counter, one brawler that can scan, and then you can always just figure out the third brawler. Next we have penalty kick. Here are your best compositions on your screen right here. So with penalty kick, as always, it's just all about throwers. It's just so hard to make anything work on penalty kick. The more throwers, the better, to be honest. So you can see in the draft, Mo Kenji every single time, and then you've got throwers like Barley and Larry and Laurie. There's some sneaky strategies I like with banning, to be honest, especially if you have first pick. I like to ban either Barley or Larry. So then, of course, if one of those are banned, then you can just go the other thrower, because there's no other thrower that can really compete with them and that can, you know, offer that versatility. So that's just a good draft hack, in my opinion. Then you've got lots of Rico. Surge is good, but only if he he's not up against throwers. So if there's a lot of throwers left in a draft, don't go Surge. But if a lot of them are banned out, you're probably safe to go. In terms of other good picks, you got Nita, good just for staying alive, a lot of HP and can counter those tanks. Got like Squeak again, kind of that in between of like kind of low-key a thrower in the sense he can cover a lot behind walls and just pretty annoying. Berry as well, pretty underrated still. Maisie can do a lot, especially as a later pick in the draft to counter those tanks. Cordelius is a really good pick in penalty kick. I love him because he got the jump gadget to counter the throwers, and of course he counters the tanks. He's really good in this map in particular. You've got the likes of Penny starting to become a lot more meta, but again, be careful of throwers because they will counter on this map. There's just a lot of nonsense in penalty kick. I really don't like this map. So next we've got Pinball Dreams here, your best picks on your screen right here. So again, Pinball Dreams is very like penalty kick in a sense. Throwers are pretty dominant on this map, but at the same time there is a lot more ways to move around and counter them. Wall breaks are going to be especially good down either lane. So in terms of the picks, I really like, again, you can go the same strategy with penalty kick, ban either Barley or Larry, and then you could just pick one of those and they're just going to be able to dominate in the draft because they're so good against everything. In terms of options, I like that are pretty sneaky. B in the middle can be pretty good and pretty underrated in this meta. To be honest, there's a lot of overrated picks as well, like Rico. Rico can be good, but only later on in the draft, I believe, because there's still a lot of throwers for Rico, because you've got wall breaks and you've got throwers which are very, very strong on Pinball Dreams. So don't just blindly pick Rico. He can be countered by those good players. Again, Cordelius is a fantastic pick on this map in particular, who I just think is a perfect ranked brawler because there's not much that really counters him, and he's just so good at countering tanks and throwers that you just have to go in. Buster can be really good down the left hand side and just pretty annoying to deal with. Again, Maisie and Squeak and Penny are going to be the three brawlers that have actually made a big mark on the meta and are all really good. I really like Penny in the meta right now, so start abusing her as much as possible before people latch on to how good she really is. Daryl can be really good, but later on in the draft, and then the likes of Clancy's only later on good in the draft because he's more of a tank counter, so only play him when there's other tanks. And good late picks again, Dynamite always a great late pick who I like banning a lot, Mortis as well, so it's kind of the same vibes as penalty kick. Lastly for Dribble, we have Triple Dribble here, your best picks on your screen again. So with Triple Dribble and 3 out of the 4 maps in the Dribble rotation, it's so throw heavy. The meta just completely revolves around it, but so good in the draft sense, so making sure that you've got all bases covered. By that I mean, don't just go 3 brawlers that are easily countered by throwers. By that I mean, you've got to have something, either high HP or just some way of closing down those throwers. Like, don't just go, I don't know, for example, B, Nita and Sandy. You're just going to get wrecked by those throwers, so go something that's at least a bit more versatile. That's why I like going like Buster, that's why I like going Chester, because at least he's got the wall break and his super and his fast movement speed, or something with a bit more HP, so like a Daryl that can at least counter those throwers. So it doesn't even matter, like in the draft for example, if they pick like a thrower and Gale, sometimes you just still need to go like a Daryl because it just counters throwers that hard, and it can just give you that breakaway space. If you just go the same types of brawlers, you're going to get countered easily. So Dribble, pretty much the exact same as the other two Brawl maps. So now moving on to gem grab, starting off with double swoosh here. Best picks on the screen right here. So a double swoosh is a really scary one in this draft and just playing in general, because there's just a lot of sneakiness happening. There's a lot of, you know, being unaware where the opponents are. If you're not sure where anyone is, just tread with caution. Don't just go in blindly. Always scout if you're unsure. So that's why I really like Gene, really good with the vision gear. That's why Surge is really good. If you pop the speed gear and the vision gear onto him, he's going to be able to just clap pretty much everything. So good in this meta. Sandy, again, there's a couple of really good Sandy maps in this meta, and double swoosh is definitely the best one for him because he can play as a mid and a lane so easily, and the super can just allow him to completely take over the map. Gale is still really good in the meta. Late picks, I don't think late pick is that important in double swoosh. Of course, tanks are still going to be good, but so many tank counters, so you don't have to be too worried about them. Mortis still is a late pick you've got to be very cautious of. In terms of big shifts in the meta, I'm seeing a lot more Squeak. I'm seeing a lot more Penny mid, for example, really good on this map. I'm seeing a lot of Buster. I'm seeing a lot of Lazy to counter to tanks. I'm seeing Daryl late in the draft. I'm not seeing as much Tara anymore. She's kind of dropping off a bit. And I'm still seeing Chester in the meta, so still a lot really going on. Now moving on to Hard Rock Mine here, best picks on your screen again. So in terms of Hard Rock Mine, I don't think a lot has really changed. You know, Rico's still really dominant on this map. Surge is a great option down the lane. Then Ruffs as well, I think is so underrated just in general in the meta. Not many people probably have him leveled up because he's pretty boring to play, but Hard Rock Mine probably is his best map. So good in the draft. Then you've got the likes of, again, Penny making a really big mark on this meta. The reason why I really like her on Hard Rock Mine, because again, you can actually play her as a mid / lane as well. She's really good in lane, just really good defensively. And then in terms of good mid brawlers, there's a lot to really choose from, so I won't really fret about picking your mids too much in the draft, because you can go the likes of Gus, Piper, Bell, Max, Meg, 8-bit. There's so many good mids. Just take your choice. I'd focus rather on getting the good lanes. For example, Ruffs, Rico, Surge. Nita's a really good lane option on this map. Squeak's really good. Chester, Gale. Those are going to be your best bets at getting those ELO wins. Also, in terms of Hard Rock Mine and the late picks, I think you only really have to worry about Mortis, maybe Squeak and Sprout sometimes, and Lily. But there isn't really too much of a threat here. So moving on to the next map, we have Last Stop here, best picks on the screen. So with Last Stop, it is very open, but there also is a lot of grass, and there's a lot of potential to really make those turnaround plays. So in terms of my favorite picks, again, Angelo, such a sleeper pick in the meta. So good because, of course, the water, and just a really good gem carrier. In terms of good lanes, Surge can be a really good lane because of the grass. Chester's still pretty good at scouting. Gale can be pretty good as well. But I will say there's a lot of really underrated options, which I kind of even forgot about myself on the list. For example, like Otis, very underrated on this map. Crow's underrated on this map. Pearl's underrated. There's so many good lane options. I would actually say just focus on the mid first. Focus on getting those long-range brawlers selected in the mid. So for example, I really love Piper or Angelo. If those are taken, you know, 8-bit can be just good for control. Bell can be good because of the traps. Byron, make sure you got that mid brawler selected, get the best one available. And then it's all about the late. I really like late picks on this map because there's just so much grass. You know, there's potential to go even Fang late pick. Daryl late pick is insane. Lily's so good because there's so many bushes to create plays and just cause chaos on the mid. Just be aware of that assassin because it's going to pop up in the draft 100%. So make sure at least one of your brawlers like Tara, for example, Maisie, Gale, there's like so many good tank counters down the lane. You've got to at least have one. Moving on to the final gem grab map, we have Undermine. So this pretty much plays out the same as the Last Stop in a way. There's a lot of grass down the lane. I will say the middle can be pretty chaotic at times. If you're not winning your matchup down the grassy lane, just put yourself in the middle and it can be really awkward and it can get you a lot of value against the mid as well. So in terms of the best mid brawlers, Gene's always going to be one of the best in gem grab and on this map in particular. Surge really good down the grass. I will say that it depends if you're a good Surge player. If you're not that comfortable, I won't really pick him early in the draft because he can get countered, but most of the time I can just go Surge against anything and I'll always get my first level. And you can always switch the gadget as well with Surge, which I really do like about him, that people just don't do often enough. You've got the likes of Sandy, really good at wall peeking on this map. Gale, wall peeking capabilities. You think of that one kind of, well, the tile near, like the wooden tile bit. you can just always wall peek with Gale, for example. And you got Buster down below. So difficult to take down because it's literally his main attack covers the entire grass, and his super does as well. So he's just an absolute freak in the grass. And then you've also got Chester. Again, his main attack just covers the entire grass. You've got Gale, who we've already spoke about. Squeak can be so annoying as a late pick and ranked on this map because the gadget just covers the entire grass and his shot is just so polarizing. You've got the likes of Penny as well, with the turret behind that wall can be pretty toxic, and throws aren't actually too common on this map, so you can get away with Penny. Janet's a good late option. Again, assassins are going to be good late options. There's a lot to consider, so always making sure that your draft covers all bases as usual. Now we're going to be moving on to Heist, starting off with Bridge Too Far. Here are your best picks on the screen right here. So I will say straight away, the most annoying brawler on this map for me has to be Angelo. I'm actually banning out Angelo a lot more often now. I don't know if it's just me, because he's just got so many good maps in this rotation. There's been so many nerfs to some of the meta brawlers. Angelo's sneakily becoming one of the best brawlers again, in my opinion. And then, of course, Heist. This map, I would say the one thing that's a bit overrated is Colette. Colette is, of course, really good in Heist, but the good players can just avoid Colette's lane or just don't go brawlers that feed her. And then you can just easily, like, you don't have to go down your set lane as long as you're not leaving like a Colt or an 8-bit on their own down the left. You know, there's some brawlers you can just leave. So that's a good strategy in Bridge Too Far. Piper is just a queen here because you can open up the map if needed, and she just pretty much beats every single brawler down the lane except for Nanny. So Nanny's going to be really good a little bit later on in the draft when, you know, for example, really popular picks, Colt, Belle, Brock. Then you can go Nanny to counter two of those brawlers. It's going to be fantastic. And then, of course, you've got the teleport onto the safe. You've got Amber, who can just be a good in-between brawler. Eve can be good to clean up the pieces. Again, you want to make sure that you've at least got one damage dealer. So whether that's the likes of Chuck, whether that's Colt, whether that's Brock, whether that's 8-bit, whether that's Colette, Jesse, etc. You've got to have one, because you've got to have a way to actually pressure the opponent, because if you just got 3 control brawlers, you can't just control the entire game because you're not going to win like that. So next up for Heist, we have Hot Potato here. Best picks on the screen. So Hot Potato plays completely different to the other 3 Heist maps in the rotation because it's a very base race heavy map. So you'll see me say that word a lot. Base race just basically means you're just going full at it, straight beeline into the safe with big tanky brawlers, big DPS brawlers, and you don't care about control. You're just going for that win. So that's why you see a lot of Colette in the mid, really good at shutting down everything. And of course, as well, the super's just so easy to hit onto the safe. Mo is just Mo. Barley's just really good because you can switch gadget against tanks. You can just deal a lot of damage to the safe. It's just so hard to deal with a good Barley on this map. Daryl's really good because, of course, it's Daryl. He's just so good in this meta. Melody is Heist. Why wouldn't you go Melody? In terms of late picks, I like banning a lot of the time. Dynamite and Edgar are 2 that spring to mind. Dynamite as a late pick is so dangerous, so I just ban it most of the time. In terms of, again, really good options that people underrate, Crow is just so good in the middle because, you know, you might face off against a tank and sometimes it can take you a bit too long to kill them, but eventually they're just going to feed you a hypercharge, and that hypercharge is just going to deal way more damage than any tank could really do. Again, on the topics of tanks, there's a lot of base race brawlers you can go here. Buzz, Bull, Frank. There's just so much beatdown, so much chaos. Just don't be afraid to just go base race brawlers because that's the way you're going to win in this match. So next up for Heist, we have Kaboom Canyon here. Your best picks on the screen right here. So again, more of an open map. So that's where you're going to see a lot more snipers on this one. In terms of best options, it's always going to be Chuck and Colette and Mo. Those are going to be really good Heist brawlers. Again, Angelo's the brawler I end up banning so much because the reason why Angelo's so annoying, he can just float over the middle and then he can, of course, just peep in and out the grass and just 4k you. Yeah, I just hate him. I just ban him. Just don't deal with that nonsense. And then, of course, Colt is just Colt. Melody to Melody in Heist, you just can't go wrong with those brawlers. In terms of good options, again, Crow's super underrated with the hypercharge, and you've got Gale with the launch pad, can be really good for control. Byron's just a good brawler for control and just synergizing well with more aggressive options. Amber's just that good filler brawler. You've got the likes of 8-bit, again, pretty underrated. Piper's only good for countering, I don't know, other longer range brawlers. So for example, if the opponent goes like Colette and Colt maybe, then Piper can be good for that reason. I won't really pick Piper early on in the draft here. Eve, again, another brawler to clean up when it's not Angelo there. Eve can just be a good cleanup brawler. Again, you want to make sure that at least got one brawler that's going in aggro and trying to get you some safe damage. So whether that just be a big damage dealer like Colt, Brock for example, whether that be a Daryl late pick or just something like that, you've got to have something that's at least causing pressure again, or else you're just going to lose game. So moving on to the final map in Heist, we have Safe Zone. So again, Safe Zone pretty much hasn't really changed except for a couple of introductions in the meta. Again, the likes of Penny and Squeak, I'm actually really enjoying it in the Heist meta right now. Pretty much later on in the draft, because early on in the draft they both can get countered, of course, by either assassins or for Penny throwers. But yeah, I'm starting to like them a lot more, because if you can get Penny turret down the left hand side, it just gets a lot of damage and a lot of pressure. In terms of picks, I really love, again, Angelo is so annoying. I mean, you can ban it or just go it yourself. I feel like it's a cheat code on this map. So good at cleaning it up. In terms of, like, say there's a Chuck on the safe, so good at defending in that matter. Again, Crow's gonna be so good, although he does get countered by a couple of a lot of people like going snipers here, so it can get countered in that aspect, but still you're eventually going to get that hypercharge, and as long as you can keep the game going as long as possible, you're going to be able to win towards the end. Brock, of course, is Brock. He's good in Heist. 8-Bit, again, another brawler that gets slept on, but it's just so good when paired with another sniper. Daryl later on in the draft. And then we're talking really, really dirty 6-pick compositions. We're thinking Sprout and Grom. You know, if it's a couple of snipers and there's no assassins, which is very rare in the Heist meta, then you can go Grom and or Sprout, because Sprout with the hypercharge can be pretty good. Grom is really good at countering later on in the draft, and then you have Nanny as well to counter those snipers. So yeah, a lot to consider. Now moving on to Hot Zone, starting off with Dueling Beetles. Here, your best picks on the screen. So again, Melvin Kenji. Barley's gonna be really good in Dueling Beetles because you got the heal gadget, and of course you got the unbreakable walls. He's just so good at zoning. It's just Barley. He's insane in this meta. Surge is gonna be really good still. I've just always seen Surge for months and months in pro play on this map. Larry and Laurie, again, it's just a battle of Barley and Larry in the draft. So again, if you want to go down that strategy where you ban one of them and pick the other, really good strat if you're really early on in the picking phase. And then Jessie can be pretty good as well. It's Jessie, she's just really good in the Hot Zone meta. Again, brawlers that might be really surprising to you. Of literally the 3 brawlers that got buffed, Penny, Maisie and Squeak. I'm loving both Penny and Squeak in the meta. I don't know whether it's going to wear off in a couple of days time, but I'm just seeing really good success rate with both of these brawlers, so keep testing them out for yourself and try it out. You've got the likes of Chester still really good in the meta. I think he's not falling off too much. Gust can be really good because of course it is basically 3 lanes on Dueling Beetles, so if you can just lock down one completely with Gust, then you're good to go. Really good solid option. Berry can be really good, but only if you've got some good synergy, so only go Berry maybe as like a 4-5 pick with like a Buster or just something that's going to be sitting on that point as much as possible, so you can cycle through to your supers. In terms of other good options as well, Sue can be underrated with the turret all the way in the back spawn. Daryl can be good late in draft. Lou can be a good 6th pick. Mortis as well, Frank as well, a lot to consider. So next up we have Open Business. So I would say this is actually very similar to Dueling Beetles in a sense that throws can be just so strong. So you'll hear me say that a lot in a lot of ranked maps, but it's just true because Barley and Larry just so dominant in the meta. Late picks as well, Mortis, Dynamite, the same old. So again, the good sleeper picks are definitely going to be Squeak and Penny, because if you can lock down a thrower yourself and go Penny, it can be pretty good. And then you got a big damage dealer, then you've probably got all things covered in the draft. Griff can be really good to open up the map and just establish control with the business resilient star power. Buster can just be so annoying to kill because he can be really sneaky, and then he's got his shield to protect him, a lot of HP, so he can be really good on that zone. Again, you've got the likes of like Max that can synergize with a lot of different brawlers. Cordelis can jump over walls and counter those throwers. Barry can be very, very good on this map because you like to pair it with brawlers like Meg, Gale, other high HP brawlers, and you're going to get a lot of value there. But again, a lot of times it's just a battle of trying to counter those throwers slash going assassins slash tank counters. It's just a merry-go-round in rank. Next up for Hot Zone, we have parallel plays here, your best picks on the screen right here. So again, throwers can be pretty good, but I would say there's always a strategy on this map. So like I normally say, down the left hand lane, you're going to be making sure that you've got some high DPS brawler that's going to stop those assassins from getting in, but it's got a little bit of range to them. So normally I like the likes of RT, for example. Surge might even be good defensive lane. I like more offensive, but you get what I mean. Gale defensive lane, Chester defensive lane. These big DPS brawlers, shove them down the left hand lane. Make sure that you've even got the vision gear on so you can keep tabs on them to stop them from going into your zone. And then down the middle, again, making sure that you've got a little bit of range to you. So that's why I really like the likes of Byron. That's why I really like Penny, for example, to pinch, Amber to pinch, Jessie to pinch. Making sure that you're locking down that left-hand lane. And then your right-hand lane brawler. So whether that's you or your teammate, making sure they go some type of assassin. So whether that's the like of a late pick Mortis, late pick Lily, any kind of late pick, trying to think of all the other ones. Melody can be pretty good, Daryl can be pretty good. Just something that can cause pressure and eventually overwhelm them with their supers. So I don't really expect, most of these assassins to win early on, but as the game goes on, once you build up supers, hypercharges, you should start to be able to overwhelm them. But again, making sure you focus on your defensive lane first, because that's the key issue and way I see people playing this map wrong. Just make sure you get that left sorted, and then everything else can be good to go. Lastly, for Hot Zone, we have Ring of Fire here. Your best picks on your screen right here. So Ring of Fire, of course, this is a map which is commonly misplayed by people that keep going Rico in my rank games. So if you're one of those players that go Rico, just stop. It doesn't do anything. I mean, it might do something when you get to spawn trapping, but there's so many ways to break out of spawn trap in this map. Just don't go Rico, because you're going to be sending 2 people down the middle, and then 1 person either stopping people from coming in, whether it's down the left or right. So yeah, always send 2 people middle, because of course it's literally their main objective to keep getting that zone percentage. So in terms of people that are really good in the middle, you've got the likes of Byron, Gale, Meg, you've got lots of Buster, Penny's really good, Gus, you've got the likes of Piper, Bell with the traps, B can be pretty good. There's so many good mid brawlers. Need to be focusing on that mid as much as possible. Again, people just are under this conception that they need to just flank around the edge and just try and pinch from that side. No, just focus on the middle as much as possible, guys. Trust me, it'll be the way to win on this map. So now moving on to the final game mode, we have Knockout, starting off with Bell's Rock. So as you can see on the screen, I completely forgot and put Jean twice, but anyways, you can see Piper really, really good in the knockout meta. Mandy as well, if they fix the bugs, she's going to be like the best ruler in knockout. Larry's just going to be pretty good against everything, but I wouldn't actually say that throws are that important in terms of locking down the best one in draft, because there's so many good late pick options to counter the other throws. So for example, Grom and Sprout. Late picks you need to be very careful of, that you have to consider in your draft. Mortis, Daryl, so again, making sure you've got something with DPS. So a lot of times I like to go over likes of Bell, because you can switch star powers to Grande to counter those tanks, plus the super. Byron can be still pretty good against assassins in my opinion, so he's a good kind of brawler to make sure you're not getting countered by them. RT as well, Jean can be pretty good with the pull. Kit's a really good synergy with those assassins, and then you've got the likes of Penny starting to creep into the meta a little bit. Nanny's a good pick into snipers. There's just a lot going on in knockout, but I think it's the same brawlers that are repeating. So next up we have Flare and Phoenix. They're your best picks on the screen right here. So you'll see a common theme in knockout. Literally every single map is that, except for out in the open, you have the same type of brawlers. With Flare and Phoenix, again, it's important to have 1 thrower in your composition, probably 1 good sniper in your composition, and then this type of filler brawler that's maybe there to stop the enemy from going, like a Kit or some type of tank, or of course going to tank yourself. It's just how the Flare and Phoenix draft goes. So with Flare and Phoenix, you normally want to send the thrower down the left. You want to send the other 2 brawlers in the middle, whether that just be the sniper, the Pearl, etc. In terms of underrated picks, Pearl, really, really solid in the draft here, because you can just camp in the grass and then pop the gadget and get some kills. RT, really, really good as well. Then you've got the likes of Angelo in the middle. You've got the likes of Gus in the middle. Gray can be a great counter pick and a good synergy. If you can get Gray and Daryl, for example, really good. If you can get Kit and Daryl 4-5, again, can be really good. Max can be pretty sneaky and good at just running at the opponents, running it down, especially if they've got a sniper and a thrower. Mortis good later on the draft, but only from the good players. Grom, Sprout, again, there are some dominant throws, and for example, there's still the strategy on this map in particular. If you ban Larry or Barley and you just take the other thrower, you're going to be good to go. But still, there are some good late pick throwers like Sprout and Grom in the meta. So it's just normally a cheese fest in Flare and Phoenix. People just normally wait for the gas to close in, and that's just how it goes. So now moving on to Goldarm Gulch here, your best picks on the screen right here. So Goldarm Gulch literally is a carbon copy of the other 2 maps, really, but it's just kind of like flipped. You're basically shooting at each other from those 2 lanes, and then again the gas just closes in. So making sure that you've got, again, a thrower on both sides of things. The worst thing you could do is give yourself 3 snipers and the opponent goes a thrower and just completely counters you. So you don't want to be doing that. Make sure you've got any of the throwers locked in. To be fair, I wouldn't really be too worried about most assassins. Daryl is a really good late assassin, but most of the time you have some type of sniper that can counter that. So example, Piper with a knockback, Angelo jump gadget. You've got the likes of still like Byron can be pretty good at countering. And then I think good underrated picks again. Squeak really underrated in this meta, and he can be very toxic when the gas closes in. I see a lot of people, especially in APAC, before the buffs, picking Squeak and Knockout. So one thing to consider. RT, good kind of brawler. So again, with draft, what I normally go is making sure you go a sniper, making sure you've got something in between like RT and Pearl, and making sure you got a thrower. Then you've pretty much got all things covered, except for, of course, if you have 6th pick, making sure you go an assassin later on. And lastly, we have Out in the Open. So this is the final map in the ranked guide. It is a long one, but Out in the Open, it definitely differs from the other knockout maps because there's a lot more longer range. So that's why I like the likes of Nanny even early on in the draft, because you're pretty much guaranteed to face off against other snipers. So Nanny counters all the other ones, got a good super as well. And the hypercharge still will make a difference late game. Again, in terms of big differences here, I like Pearl. Pearl is so good in knockout meta, especially on this map with the grass RT. Again, really solid. Meg can be good at, especially at countering the snipers with the high HP. Eve can be underrated down the left, same with Angelo. 8-bit can be really good at getting a turret behind. Brock is a good later pick. I don't really like him too much anymore, mainly because other snipers just counter him too much. Late picks, I don't actually think there's that many good late picks. I mean, Lily is still a good late pick if there's a lot of snipers, but again, you can always like consider things. But most of the time in draft, I find my teammates are just going Pearl, RT, something that's going to take care of a Lily anyways. So yeah, it's just sniper heaven, making sure you're not getting countered by the late pick Lilies. And that's pretty much going to be it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This took me so long, like 2-3 days to complete this. So I really appreciate the support on these. And if there's any way that I can improve them in the future, let me know. But again, I'm trying to go over the basics and just literally going through picks as much as possible, because there's so many draft scenarios. Maybe I can make like a more in-depth draft guide in the future. You'll have to let me know, guys. So that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.